Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Let's
whoa,
go.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Would
I
you
wake up
just
to
look at it, traders? Ticker symbol AMC. Seeing a little bit of a breakout from the RSI weekly band being crossed for the first time since back in September, guys. A beautiful, beautiful breakout of this falling wedge formation that we called on our post the previous 2 days. Over the weekend, we anticipated a big, big trading day, and that's what you saw, traders. So I'm going to go over where I expect this thing to go and where I think the likely formation is playing out that will lead, right, to future price targets, mumbo jumbo, right? So make sure to slap the subscribe button, hit the like button for the algorithm, and let's get straight in to some technical analysis on AMC, guys. So on the weekly time frame, we called out this weekly RSI band being down in the oversold territory. So typically when this happens, traders, it is a very, very good reversal signal. And that's exactly what we called for, right? We said this is a unique opportunity in which you're going to go from the most oversold, more oversold than COVID, right? The most oversold in over 10 years, guys. And that's exactly what happened, right? On the weekly time frame, oversold, and you found a bid, right? You found a bounce. And what is happening now, I assume, is you're getting a little bit of a short covering on the daily time frame. We're not there yet, but you're beginning to see a little bit of excitement come back into AMC. And I wanted to cover that because I think it's important, right? A lot of these momentum driven stocks are driven off of excitement. So I thought it'd be a worthy shout out to Trend Spider for actually posting AMC, right? Saying Wall Street Bets Reddit / Wall Street Bets on high alert. AMC, as you break this downtrend, that's not a small task, right? And when you broke it on the daily time frame, you gapped up. You gapped up like crazy, right? And so that is a very real technical artifact to watch to come back to, right? This gap right here from this morning, sitting right around 112. Now, if you did that, traders, I want you to take into perspective the real meat on your plate, right? The meat on the bone. You've now seen a move that was pretty gargantuan, right? 40% move. And although it doesn't feel like it probably for most people, that is a nice swing, right? And so what I'm anticipating here is you're almost overbought on the daily, right? That's crazy to go so fast from oversold into overbought. But what I'm expecting here is maybe you swing up a little bit more, 131, maybe you double top, right? But I do expect this more elongated right shoulder. And what's going to happen from that, traders, is you're going to form a very, very bullish bottoming signal, which is your inverted head and shoulders. We called it on NEO, and we're calling it on AMC. I do believe you're going to see that. And what I expect for that is, right, we're going to take the length of this left shoulder, because typically these formations are rather symmetrical, right? So we're going to say this is 15 to 14 days. So 15 to 14 days from today takes you right around April 26th. So by the end of the month, you should have clarification. And the beauty of this is, right, you take the length, so 15 days. You also take the depth, right? So about a 12% drop. So you're pretty much giving up today's gains in order to create this longer accumulative formation, right? And I am down for it, right? And where does that take you? Well, that takes you almost exactly in to your gap fills, traders. I am absolutely on fire right now, cooking with passion, cooking with grease because of how I feel about this stock. So make sure, guys, if you haven't yet, slap the subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me. We are on the road to 2K. And nobody's covering AMC like we are right now. So just want to give myself that plug. AMC, though, if you get that symmetrical move, that's filling your gap, taking you to around a retest of $1.10. And then that gives you a beautiful inverted cup and handle. Now, when we talk, traders, about profit targets from this, this is where it gets exciting, right? You take the neckline of the formation from the bottom. You would literally just stick that on top. And then where does that take you, right? That takes you into significant key resistance, traders. that takes you into almost bump and run looking resistance, right? Because we talked about this all the way back, right? Like a month ago on this channel about this wedge. This was your D-Day, right? This was AMC's classic formation that you broke down from, that everyone was hyped over. And when you broke down from this, you made a key resistance line, right? You reject, 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 fail to hold, reject, reject. And that is what you would be retesting. Now, if you had enough steam, enough freaking momentum, right, there is the opportunity that you smash through this, retest, and then fly. But what we're watching for is this profit target. Approximately around 169. I think you would extend over it to about 180. And I say that because you are taking an inverted head and shoulders pattern. If that was possible, right, that over these next couple days of consolidation, that you see that run up and you see volume step in, you're now setting yourself up for another shoulder, head, right shoulder. And the beautiful thing about this is this could be a inverted head and shoulders inside of an inverted head and shoulders inside of a falling wedge. Like, all of these bullish reversal signals could just pile onto each other, and you could keep climbing and keep the steam rolling on this train. As you can see, AMC up almost 17%, 16% at the high today, which is insane. You saw volume up, you saw buyers up, and you saw multiple news pieces, right? But what I'm interested in is where. Short interest currently sitting around 19%. Still relatively high when we talk about other stocks, but not the heights of where it's been, right? So that's what we got today on AMC for TradingView. We're going to talk about it on Weeble too, though. We'll talk about it on Weeble. Let me see where that is. So something that also gets me absolutely jacked, right, is you are potentially going to see if you can cross above your monthly RSI band. Now, this has been an impossible feat for AMC. This has been very, very challenging on the stock. As you sit coiled within this falling wedge, we've seen the bounce, traders. We've seen the bounce, in my opinion, right? This is your bottom right here. When we talk about technical analysis and what it means to me, I freaking love when a thesis that we've held is actually come to fruition, right? We saw a bounce here, so that's 2 touches, 3 touches. This was your 4th touch of this falling wedge on AMC. You saw a little bit of a wick below, and then now you're seeing that bounce. They're already up 30% on the month. Now, where it gets serious is if you could actually finish this follow through on the monthly RSI, traders. So on a bigger time frame, you could see what these little hiccups above it did, right? Up 33% on the month. And then this one, obviously up 47%. You got a little cross up here, gave you 12%. Wasn't anything crazy because you already saw the momentum spill over, but this could be huge, right? This could be huge. So this is what I'm watching for. I want to see us cross above on the monthly RSI. That would mean the world in terms of holding this bullish trend and possibly breaking out, traders, of this macro falling wedge. Sorry, I'm burping up this San Pellegrino. Shout out to the Neo donator who sent me just enough for another Pellegrino. That's hilarious. Let's talk about AMC on Weeble, because you saw a beautiful, beautiful candle today, closing above the 50-day EMA and seeing the volume increase up to 50 million shares, guys. So 10% of your overall float being traded today. That's not nothing, right? That is not nothing. And when you see this beautiful falling wedge breakout, the volume ramping up, closing above the 50-day EMA, I have no complaints. I have no complaints whatsoever. So we're going to watch and we're going to see if you can hold and base at this level above the 50-day EMA or slightly below it, right? Making that right shoulder, filling the gap you left at 112. Does this thing have more room for upside? That is the question. And I believe it does. I don't think it's over. So you've closed above the 9-day EMA, the weekly time frame, although you have not closed the week yet, right? This is Monday. We'll see how this candle develops. Worst case scenario is you form some kind of shooting star candle like you did here and like you did. What's another shooting star on AMC? Here, that is just atrocious, right? You don't want to see that because that leads to this kind of spillover. You want to see this thing follow through or at least consolidate into a nice doji. A doji on mid volume, right, would be ideal. Let's look at the quarterly time frame because this is important. This is so close, right? And we're going to find out. We're going to find out come May. I believe May is the new quarter. What you're going to do, because if you close this thing, you're currently green on the quarterly chart for the first time since June, traders. And in my opinion, that would give you the room that you need. That would give you the oomph. Sorry, it's not May. What is this candle close? It would be August. Ew, that is a long, long time. All right. Well, we'll see. The quarterly MACD, though, that is what I wanted to cover. How close you are to curling up on this is insane. And that, to me, is giving squeeze, right? You got it here. That was your first quarterly MACD cross from the bottom. And you ran 400% and then 455%, right? So what is this going to do when you're this oversold on the macro? In this macro falling wedge, what is this going to do? We're going to find out, right? And a great example is AMC's past historical trend, because I like to trade off of your historical indicators, right? What has this thing done in the past? Once you cross that, you ran like crazy. So that is our basis to go off of, right? I would assume if you see this, AMC's macro is changing, the debt restructuring is happening, and you're continuing to cut costs and expand your top line sales. IWM, I assume, right, if that is crossing green, IWM, I just assume is going to be tearing, right? And you're doing the right things on the daily time frame to reverse this train, right? You're breaking out of this channel that you've been in on IWM, which is a good sign. It genuinely is. We need to see this follow through, and we need to see the orange man chill, right? Say what you want about him, but this man is on fire in the Middle East, and we need to see some clarification because the market hates, more than anything, uncertainty. So I guess we'll figure out Tuesday because that is the deadline. So buckle in, traders. Buckle down. Strap in. You have a little bit of an RSI wedge here or an RSI channel that you've broken out of. It's not clean, but it is there, right? That you've broken from, which is good. That's a good sign to the upside. So that's what I'm watching for IWM. Let's look at IWM on Weeble because that's going to be important. There you go, right? Weeble's showing you these MAs, moving averages. That's what I like to see. Now, I don't like the decreasing volume on this swing up. To me, that is saying that you're going to retest the 9-day EMA currently sitting at 248. So I would not be surprised to see this thing spill over a little bit because of the weakness in volume. That's not a good sign, right? When you're trading up on low volume, typically that is buyers running out of firepower, right? And when you're trading down on low volume, typically that is sellers running out of selling powder, right? So wherever the trend is going, you want to see high volume is if your conviction is in that direction. We need to see this thing kind of lag out here, right? And for the 9-day EMA to push us through the 50 into this gap fill currently sitting at 269. That would be beautiful because then you have the opportunity to go and make another all-time high, right? And on IWM, our thesis is just that. This thing is going to go crazy. I am convinced that IWM is going to go crazy because of this cup handle retest, right? just like you had here, right? Flat top resistance, broke it, you moon. That's 2020. This is 2018. Or no, this is 2008, right? Flat top resistance, break it, moon. This is 2018. Flat top resistance, break it, moon. So that's what I'm watching for on IWM. That should act as a nice cushion for the pushing. That should act as a nice cushion for AMC and GameStop to then push higher prices. As you can see on the weekly time frame, you're just taking a little peeky weeky outside of this 9-day, but you are kind of sandwiched and pinned between the 9 and the 50. So not surprised to see this little bit of a kangaroo market, right? In case you guys don't know what that is, that's when you're just chopping, right? You're seeing a little bit of back and forth indecision on the market side. So that's what I got for IWM. GameStop had an atrocious day. Even though AMC was up 13% at one point, even though you got the daily MACD cross green, you had a shooting star candle. And it's not the best look, to be honest with you. You had low volume close, which also isn't great. But the reason I'm not so sold on it is the volume. Right? You traded 3.6 million shares, traders. That is literally nothing. Buyers could step in tomorrow. Michael Burry could step in tomorrow. Whoever you want, right? Your mother could step in tomorrow and buy GameStop shares and send this thing higher. Just want to cover Michael Burry. Michael Burry covering on GameStop saying, I bought more GME because I feel this is going to be a sweet year that creates opportunity in the sweet spot, right? 2/12 billion range for Ryan. I think it's possible when he does the deal. And he says the deal as an acquisition because everyone knows GameStop has been alluding to an acquisition. I think it's possible when he does the deal, the shares price will rally and the warrants will exercise later this year, bringing the more cash in. There is some logic for Ryan being patient and buying something closer to when the warrants expire. But this year is something closer since they expire this year. I expect there is a good chance Ryan has the opportunity to make an undervalued buy this year. I do not believe the business needs any synergy with existing businesses of GME. I also believe that the buy will reveal more of Ryan's overall strategy. If not Ryan himself. People will take what they want from it, and that could help the shares. So that's pretty significant that Michael Burry, right? That's a funny meme I posted on Twitter. Michael Burry, the man, the myth, the legend, the big freaking short, is talking about GameStop in that way. That's got me feeling some kind of way. So I hope that gets you guys excited genuinely because it really does highlight and it overviews where you're at on the stock, right? You are quite literally in the weight that FAFO, right? F around, find out for shorts because this thing is going to go parabolic, in my opinion, in the near future. Sometime in next year or the later half of this year, whenever the news comes out, whenever the strategy is shown, right? There's going to be so much hype around this stock. And so that's why this price action really does not have me phased whatsoever, right? You're trading within a wedge after this double bottom breakout of your falling wedge, which I deleted for more clarity on the chart because there's a lot of lines happening here. But you had this falling wedge, right? Double bottom, breakout. Now you're in this pennant and you're kind of just chopping around in here until you find an end to the means, right? And you do have multiple gaps below you, so that is cause for concern. Currently sitting at 21.25 and 21.93. But what I believe to be the case is you are testing currently the 200-day EMA at 23.43 and the 50. And today you rejected them both. So it's going to take some strength, right? It's going to take IWM rallying or AMC pulling you up, which we don't say often. But GME, sorry, a little tired, could just revisit these lows or the 9-day EMA, currently sitting at the high 22s, right around $23, right? And then you could see this thing easily go back to test the 200. What's going to matter, traders, is can you close above it on the week? Can you? Can you do it? Because the weekly 50 is beating you up. But if you could see a bullish candle close this week, I still have a lot of faith, right? You just saw a bullish engulfing candle. I expect some follow through here. On the 4-hour chart, not a lot happening. You are seeing higher lows and higher highs. So that is one thing just to mark on the shorter time frame, right? Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. I expect some kind of higher high here. As you could see, you're actually consolidating on top of this kind of channel, right? And that's a bullish thing. So I expect if you can hold this resistance, right, you may go back and make a higher high in the 24 buck territory towards the top of this wedge. So might not all be lost. It looks kind of rough on the daily just because the candle closed, but that's what I got for today on GameStop. GameStop to the moon. Yes, I do believe in the foundation, right? The fundamentals of GME is so much stronger than AMC. But if you want a little bit more upside, right? I think right now, particularly AMC gives a better opportunity. Just you have to manage your own risk, right? GME warrants. This is from a boy only in paradise. This is the only reason I cover the warrants. Otherwise, I would just cover GME. But I love that man so much. We're covering the warrants, baby. So you saw a bearish engulfing candle. Not great. Not great. So you also saw an intick in volume. So I do expect this thing to make a little bit of a double bottom here on the daily time frame at the 200-day EMA. Now, you've now rejected this uptrend. Not just once, but twice. And it is inevitable to me that you're going to go back and fill not just this 200-day EMA, but if you fail to hold that, traders currently sitting at around 351, that you're going to go all the way back and fill the gap, currently sitting at 329.